Welcome to Wars and Wisdom, a series designed to educate, provoke insight and inspire a deeper understanding and perspective. Now here's your host, Sam.
Welcome to Wars and Wisdom. My name's Sam, and I'm going to be the host of this series. Now, probably by first glance, you're thinking that this series is going to be me talking about stories of the war and the wisdom that I have possibly acquired. You're not wrong in that. However, when I talk about the wars, I'm talking about the wars that I have personally fought in my own mind, have fought in my own life, have fought with people against, and situations that I have gained incredible wisdom from. I realized not long ago that there are a lot of situations that I've gone through in my life that, quote unquote, are not normal, that a lot of people have not necessarily experienced and gone through and had to work through and heal from. And in turn, it's given me a lot of insight and a lot of perspective. Over time, a lot of people have come to me when they have had issues, when they wanted advice, when they wanted to see things from a different perspective. And I realized that because I had been through all the things that I had, I was able to give that. And we finally got to a place where we thought, oh, actually, that might actually be really helpful for people, especially at a time when healthcare costs are extremely expensive. Therapy is extremely expensive. A lot of people are turning to AI. A lot of people are turning to holistic therapies. A lot of people are turning to a lot of different modalities because they want answers and insight and they want to gain perspective and knowledge, but everything is expensive AF right now. So I totally get it. So I am here to create a series that talks about the wisdom and insight and knowledge I have acquired from walking through the fires of my own personal life and journey, and to come out on the other side to share them with you, because I truly feel like that is one of the main reasons why I went through all of the destruction that has happened in my life, so that I can give those insights and perspectives to people who either may go through it, are going through it, or who may be able to help somebody that is going through it. So a little bit about me so we can get a little bit more acquainted with one another. My name's Sam. I'm a spiritual life coach. I'm an aura reader. I have a background working in mental health and eating disorders. I used to be an esthetician working in the skincare industry. I'm a creator. I'm a writer. I'm an author. I'm an inventor. I do a lot of things. I love creative shit. I'm a lover of interior design. I love animals. Few fun facts about me when I was a little kid. I used to love Gushers. They were one of my favorite snacks. I used to love to collect Pogs, Beanie Babies, Hanson, Spice Girls, watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the Doodle Bear, one of my favorite toys as a kid. I also, too, loved Mary-Kate and Ashley. They were my go-to when I needed to solve crimes as a kid. I don't watch these true crime shows. When I was a kid, I was way ahead of the game. I was watching true crime with Mary-Kate and Ashley. That is the length of my true crime that it goes. So, without further ado, welcome back to Wars and Wisdom. On today's episode, I wanted to talk about something that I think will be helpful to a lot of people. And that is knowing when to walk away from conversations. And this takes practice, this takes discernment, and this takes a lot of awareness of being able to spot certain things that people will do that are a green light for you to know, now's not the time to continue this conversation, or this is not worth it. And when I say that, there are certain types of people that no matter how hard you try to get your point across, no matter how empathetic or different approaches you may take, they still won't understand or get it or try to understand. And I think that that's the key word, try. There are lots of people that you can have constructive conversations with, that you can go to when you're upset, when you can go to when things don't feel right, that will sit and listen and hold space and have empathy and really want to work to try and change things. There are other people who, no matter what you do, that just won't be a thing. And you need to know when to decipher who is who in the zoo so that you are not wasting your time, you're not wasting your energy, and you know when to protect your peace. So let's talk about the first one, accountability. When people take accountability for their actions, oh my goodness, it's like a warm cup of coffee for me. I love it. I love when people take accountability for their actions because that is showing emotional maturity. That is saying, hey, I messed up. I can own it. I know that wasn't cool. I'll do better. And then the actions that follow actually do what they say. There are certain types of people that no matter what happens, they will not take accountability. And that could fall under a lot of different categories in which that presents, but I'm going to give you a prime example of where this can show up. So say that you have a big presentation that is due for work tomorrow, and you got home, you have laundry to do, perhaps you have, your kids need you for some school project, and you have to get dinner started. There's a lot of things that are going on. And perhaps your friend calls you and says, hey, I'm in the area. I am about to go grab dinner. Do you want to join? And you think to yourself, well, I kind of have a tornado to deal with before tomorrow's big presentation at work. But maybe my husband can take care of the kids and it would be nice for me to step out of here for a few moments. So you say yes. And you go out to dinner and one thing leads to another and you're out for 3 hours. You don't get home until 11:30 at night. You're exhausted. You forego anything that you needed to prepare for work and you fall asleep. And you wake up. And all of a sudden, the shitstorm starts where somebody can't find what they need in order to get out the door. The coffee maker's not working. Something is not, right with how you're trying to get ready. Your clothes aren't matching. Nothing is washed in the laundry for you to wear. And oh, you forgot to work on that presentation that is due. So you get to work. You're unprepared, and you get yelled at by your boss. And the whole time, all you keep on thinking was, well, it's so-and-so's fault because they wanted to go out to dinner. No, it's your fault because you made the choice to go out to dinner when you know that you had a million things that you needed to take care of prior to today. That is what I mean with accountability. If somebody is willing to take accountability for their actions, it's a great thing. If somebody is willing to blame somebody else, it's another. So taking accountability, if somebody is willing to take accountability and put the actions forth to make a change, that's a green flag. If somebody's not willing to take accountability, red flag. Another thing to look for, empathy. I think we all possess the trait of being able to hold space and hold empathy and have emotions as humans. If somebody is not willing to see how much you are hurt by an action that was taken, say perhaps you were really upset about a comment that was said at a family function, and you bring it up to the person that said it, and you're really distressed, you're really upset, and you just let them know, like, hey, I wasn't okay with that. Like, that was really hurtful. And if that person cannot see that you are genuinely upset and that you are genuinely distraught, by that comment and they make something along the lines of, "You're so sensitive, don't take it so personal." Well then, if you feel something, there's a reason. If somebody says something that makes you feel a certain way, there's a reason for that. And you need to honor that. And if you have the courage to go up to somebody and actually say, "What you said hurt my feelings," and they're going to pinpoint you as sensitive or you take things too personally, red flag number 2, deflection. Deflection is another thing to look out for. So deflection is when you can be having a conversation with somebody that perhaps did something that was not okay, and you're trying to really let them know, "Hey, we need to talk about this." And you get started on the conversation. Perhaps you started talking about how the tone of one of your comments came off wrong when we were at that dinner party. Now you started talking about the tone of the comment, but then all of a sudden you're talking about what we need to go buy at Target when we go to the grocery store next week. I'm sorry, what? Let's roll this back. Like, how did we go from the topic of what you did that we need to address to, "Oh, we need to make sure that we pick up lemons when we're at Target"? Red flag number 3. If somebody constantly deflects and makes the conversation go in a direction that is not at all what you started on, that's a big red flag. And you know what? I am going to say this because we're in year 2026, and I know that ADD, ADHD could sometimes take a turn when it comes to conversations. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about somebody who is very well aware of what the conversation is and is purposefully deflecting. Red flag number 3. As far as the emotion side, when you talk to somebody and you bring up something that they possibly did that you were not okay with or that you wanted to talk about, and they all of a sudden say, "I feel like I can't do anything right by you," or "I feel like it's always something with you," pay attention. When people do that, and you are somebody who doesn't necessarily bring up a whole lot that upsets you or disappoints you, that's another huge red flag. Because what that is ultimately doing is manipulating and blame shifting onto you to make you feel like you're too much, or that your opinions and what you feel is not valid. And I'm sorry to say, that's such bullshit. If you are hurt by something and you bring it up to somebody and they deflect it back to you and say, "I feel like I'm always walking on eggshells with you, I can't do anything right," another red flag for you. Another one is blame shifting. A lot of people will do this when they feel guilty for things that they have done, and they just feel intense shame and they don't want to own up to it. Blame shifting can go something like this. If you bring up to a friend, "Hey, what you did back there was not cool. You left me hanging when I should have been able to get a ride with you, and I was counting on that. So what's the deal?" If they all of a sudden, instead of taking accountability for that, start arguing, "Well, you do this or you do that," and pointing out certain things to you, red flag. People will do that more often than not, where they need to, instead of hearing you out, they will find things that are wrong with you, so to speak, or that you've done in the past in order to make them feel a little bit better and less crappy about the topic at hand that you are bringing up to them. So pay attention when somebody does that too. Now, in all of these instances that I had mentioned, there can be very valid reasons why somebody would do this. So I'm just going to talk about, it's a hard topic to talk about because it can be very sneaky when people do it. And I think that it can be very hard to spot as well. But there are people with narcissistic personality disorders and narcissistic personality traits that are very capable of emotional manipulation. And it can be very strategic on their end. And if you do not realize that this is happening, you can easily fall into a pattern of thinking that you are always the problem when your emotions are completely valid. Those types of people are incredibly difficult to have conversations with. And a lot of what I talked about are personality traits of people with NPD or narcissistic personality traits. So you need to just be able to decipher if a person is possibly exhibiting these behaviors, because if they are constantly doing things that I had mentioned, then it's better to know. It's better to protect yourself, and also to just know that conversations may not get anywhere that means something to you. And that could be hard. I've seen a lot of people in these dynamics try to have conversations with people that no matter how wishful thinking they get, no matter how much hope they have, sometimes the behavior just does not want to change. And I'm not saying that therapy is not something that can't be helpful, but you really need to be careful if you are dealing with somebody who manipulates, because that can be something very dangerous to find yourself in, and you need to just have that awareness for yourself. So all of these behaviors that I mentioned, be on the lookout for them when you are trying to have conversations with people. Now, if genuinely, like I mentioned, one of the traits of, if you had mentioned to somebody that you weren't okay with something that they did, and then they point out something that you did, there are many times when certain situations do take two to tango. I think the biggest difference is that person able to take accountability for what they did and hear you out and understand that, even if you did do something to the situation as well. That's the biggest deciding factor, is if the person is able to take accountability for their own part, for their own side of the street. Are they able to listen with compassion? Are they able to listen with empathy? And sometimes too, you need to be mindful of a person's emotional state when trying to have a conversation. Because when a person is very angry, when they are like just in distress, when they're stressed out, their emotions are greatly going to affect how the conversation will more than likely go. So it's always better to not necessarily have a conversation when it's a heated moment. Like, give it time for both people to kind of just calm down, have a moment to think before you come together to have the conversation. Because when emotions are heightened, that's when things can, completely fall out of line. If you think about how many times when you were in a heightened emotional state and you did or said things that, like, you look back on that you were just like, okay, I was not in my best mood when that happened. I completely understand why I acted the way that I did. Had that situation happen to me now when I'm in a more calm, relaxed state, I would handle it completely different. Same thing with a conversation. If you're in a heightened emotional state, it's really difficult to have a rational conversation with somebody. So keep that in mind as well. But if the other person is not showing empathy, they're not taking accountability for their actions, they're wanting to deflect, they're wanting to point blame and blame shift on you for things that you have done that pertain nothing to what you are talking about. And if they make you feel like you're a problem because of the way that you are feeling about a certain thing, all red flags to look out for. And all red flags to know this may be a situation that you need to just walk away from. This is a situation that you need to bite your tongue with. And this is a situation that you just need to protect your peace with. And when I say a situation that you need to walk away from, certainly use your discernment with whether a conversation is worth having or whether it's worth just pulling back and accepting it for what it is. And I think coming to acceptance with anybody who exhibits this type of behavior is one of the hardest things. It's one of the hardest things to do. It's doable, but to accept that that is the behavior that you are more than likely going to get, and just knowing when it's worth having a conversation, when it's not, that's the biggest, I think, thing that will liberate you in the end of it, because you'll know what's worth it and what's not in forms of a discussion. And that in itself is incredibly valuable for your own peace and sanity. I hope this episode helped. I hope that it gives you a little bit more insight into being able to decipher when conversations may be worth it or when they are not. And thank you for supporting and tuning in, and stay tuned for our next episode.